As we discussed last week, the literature of the late 19th century was marked by a shift away from pre-war Romanticism towards realism and naturalism. These movements, focused on depicting the real America, continued into the early years of the 20th century with writers like Crane, Gilman, and Chopin. The new century, however, brought startling changes. The automobile and other technological advances changed the way that people interacted with each other, and a new view of art began to emerge in Europe: Modernism. In 1913, the Armory Show, a vast show of modern European art held in New York, brought this movement to America. At the time, it was dismissed as freak art and artistic anarchy. However, these new ideas that broke with tradition and upset the rules and standards of art and literature began to take hold in the minds of artists and writers in America as well as Europe. In 1914, World War I broke out. Although the U.S. did not officially declare war for another 3 years, the stark realities of war once again began to shape the literature of the time. The new traditions that had been upset by the new ideas of the Armory Show were shattered by a new, modern form of warfare that tore the world apart. Modernists were driven by the belief that the structure and safety once provided by religion, politics, and society were no longer enough. This belief intensified after World War I, when it seemed to many that history itself was coming to an end and that modern life was horrific, chaotic, and ultimately futile. These writers truly thought that the world as they knew it was over, and they wanted a new way to view and express the world around them. They rejected the past and wished to distinguish themselves from virtually the entire history of art and literature. Some modernists, like T.S. Eliot, expressed a deep sense of loss and despair. However, others responded with a fresh sense of both the freedom and the responsibilities of the artist in a new age. Many modernists shared an ambitious, aspirational belief in the role and place of the artist in contemporary life, believing that art had replaced religion in providing coherence, guidance, and insight into the human condition. To give you an idea of how the movements that we've been looking at are presented in art, I've posted a selection of paintings in your Week 3 module that illustrate the changes. The Modernist period also saw a radical experimentation in literary form and expression, such as a breakdown of standard forms and the adoption of a stream of consciousness technique. This experimentation was partly a response to the new forms of expression that were developing in painting, sculpture, and music, and to technological innovations such as the telephone and the cinema, which were changing the forms and the very meaning of communication. Ezra Pound's famous call to "make it new" is rightly considered one of the modernists' mottos. Additionally, most modernists believed that literature could challenge and unsettle readers, and much modernist work is intentionally demanding and difficult. What all the modernists share was a belief in literature's importance in the modern world and the need for it to be continually vital. While pre-modernist world is characterized by a sense of order and stability rooted in the meaningful nature of faith, collective social values, and a clear sense of identity, both personal and cultural, the modernist period is characterized by a sense of chaotic instability rooted in the revelation that collective social values are not particularly meaningful, leading to faithlessness, skepticism, and a confused sense of identity. Our first story for this week, A Rose for Emily, is one that's hard to categorize. It's at once a realist story focused on life in a small southern town, a gothic mystery about an antebellum family, and a more modernist story that eschews conventions or storytelling by moving through the narrative in a stream of consciousness mode that ignores the actual chronology of the story. This story is written by William Faulkner, who was born in Mississippi in 1897. While much of his early work was poetry, he became famous for his novels set in the American South that included The Sound and the Fury and Absalom, Absalom. Faulkner was awarded the 1949 Nobel Prize in Literature and ultimately won 2 Pulitzers and 2 National Book Awards before his death in 1962. The next story is also by a writer primarily known for his novels, Herman Melville. Best known for Moby Dick, Melville actually wrote a variety of texts, though he saw little fame during his lifetime. Moby Dick mobbed completely. While still firmly relying on the symbolic intensity of Romanticism, Melville also seems to be looking ahead in Bartleby the Scrivener. This text explores the Gothic nature of modern society, rather than turning to the dark recesses of the past. In our final story, The Hunger Artist by Franz Kafka, the ideas of modernism are on full display in a story that is symbolic and abstract in its presentation of the titular character. I've posted a short video about Kafka in your modules if you want to know more about him and how his life affected his work. As always this week, you have a discussion board post and a journal entry to complete. However, you also have your first writing project posted this week. You'll have 3 different types of essays throughout the course, each covering a different selection of the readings. The first type is a literary analysis. This is an essay where you make an argument about the underlying meaning or message of the text. The second will be a research argument, where you will be writing a persuasive essay about the text using research about the author, time period, or literary movement. And the final one will be a creative project. You need to complete each of these essays throughout the course, but you get to decide which type of paper to write for each of our 3 units: fiction, poetry, and drama. You can find full details in your modules. I've also posted a few general writing guides. This is a writing intensive class, so you will be graded not just on what you write, but how you write it. Please read everything carefully, including the chapters assigned from the book about writing. I have very specific requirements, and both of the arguments should be written for a formal academic audience. That means no first person. If you're not used to writing for an academic audience, please ask questions rather than just hoping that you guessed right. You'll have 3 weeks to work on this essay, but don't leave it until the last minute. This is a challenging assignment, and it will take time to do well. So if you need me, you know what to do.